Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the new Path of Exile expansion. You can't see me right now, but my arms are physically in the air because I'm that excited. This looks amazing. I could not be more hyped for this expansion, this league. There's so much to break down here. I'm going to be doing it on this video, as well as later today you're going to be able to see on 5.9 Gaming. I'm doing a walkthrough with a good friend of mine and another fellow YouTuber named Goresh. We're going to be doing a breakdown of this expansion, of this league, but I thought I'd give my initial reaction, go through some of the basics, and then as patch notes and more information becomes available, we'll dive deeper in and sort of talk through it a little more. So for those who haven't seen the trailer, you can see it here. I'm sure that if you're watching my videos, I'm assuming you've likely seen this already. You might have watched the announcement live, but if you haven't, I highly recommend watching the trailer. I'm not sure if I'm going to have this playing in the background or what while I'm going through the website, but I definitely highly recommend you check it out. So it comes out in 8 days. It comes out a week from tomorrow. So that's super exciting, super duper exciting. And so without further ado, let's just break in. So yeah, the new Path of Exile expansion is Echoes of the Atlas. So this is going to be the new end game expansion, so to speak. In last year it was, the Awakener, and this year it's Echoes of the Atlas. Looks amazing. So the Maven is sort of the new NPC there. I guess she's somewhat like the Cyrus, not sort of like the Cyrus of this expansion. And basically, you're just going through, you're collecting map bosses, and you combine them into this arena where you fight them in increasing numbers. So first you're fighting 3 at a time, then 4 at a time, then 5 at a time, all the way up to 10 at a time. And this is the type of expansion that I love, just because I love boss fighting. And the way that they're combining this is just, it's very Uber Elder-esque, right? Where Uber Elder is, the Shaper and the Elder at the same time, and it's a difficult fight. It's probably one of the most difficult fights in the game, just at a base difficulty level, without going to extremely deep delve and fighting all down there or whatever. This is probably the most basic core difficulty fight. And this is taking from that model and expanding it into huge customization, huge loot possibilities. I love it. I'm super duper excited. You can see here, we've got some images here of how this works. You interact the challenge, and all those bosses are like saved in those orbs around it, and then you fight them all at the same time. This could not be more cool. I'm super duper hyped on this. And Chris did mention in the Q&A afterwards, if you hadn't seen that, I highly recommend you do, that essentially the difficulty will scale, and that because a lot of the issues before is that when map bosses are kind of taken out of the map without the affixes on the map, then they become a lot easier. But he said the difficulty will scale, and he also said that the loot will scale based on tier. So very, very exciting. Something else awesome of note there is that when you get to 10 bosses in a room, you get an invitation, and the invitation is basically like what opens up the corridor to create that map boss arena, and those are tradable. So you can buy some really amazing map boss combinations and have this really, really nice fight and get some insane loot, and it's tradable. I'm curious what those invitations are actually going to look like. As I recall, they didn't show them. I'm curious if they're going to be like, can you alch an invitation? I don't know. Can you reroll affixes? What do those actually function like? I think that's going to be really important to know, because that is going to obviously change value. Is there like a really rare mod or something you can get on there? Who knows? But so lots and lots of really cool things there, and that's just sort of the base of that. Now, this to me, the Atlas passive trees I think it's a great idea. I think it's just functionally one of the best ideas they've had to improve mapping in quite some time. Heist was great in that, like, Heist was its own great separate content, but anything that enhances the mapping experience, obviously Heist is a league and this is the expansion, but anything that enhances the mapping experience is great in my book, because this makes it so mapping is just infinitely more rewarding. And so for those who don't know, every single region has their own essentially it looks like an Ascendancy skill tree almost, but the Ascendancy classes, so to speak, are you can pick to focus in on certain content. So some of the points, let's see, they have a picture here. Here. So this is a good one. So you can see that the points correlate to different types of content. So some of them are Legion, some of them are Beyond, some of them are Breach, some of them are Strong Boxes, whatever. And you can use that and focus in on the content that you really like and sort of spec towards it, if you will. I think that's amazing. That's super cool because, like, for example, I love Legion. Legion was one of my favorite leagues, and now I can do this. I can spec into face-to-face and get Legion encounters and areas are 100% likely to include a general. I can just farm splinters like that. And if you saw my previous video on running Legion 5-way encounters, that's super profitable. Like, this is a really great way to make money. This is a really great way to farm the game. I'm really hyped on this. And the way you get these points is by doing those 10 boss encounters, was my understanding. And please correct me if I'm wrong and I misunderstood that. But you do the 10 boss encounters and you get these points. That's cool. And you can, and again, please correct me if I misunderstood this, but my understanding is that you can max this tree out 100% per zone by running those 10 boss encounters. So that's cool. It's basically, it's a flat increase in gain on top of just running maps. So that's something to work for. That's even beyond Atlas or 8 Watchstones. Excuse me, what did I say? 8 Watchstones. Awakener 8. Thank you. So that's really, really cool. Very excited about this. So endgame rewards. This is sort of a nice thing to add as well. And I didn't see this question answered, so I'll be curious to know how this works. But well, I'll get to the question in a second. But essentially, they're craftable watchstones that can drop. You can also trade for these. This is great as well as because my issue with the Cyrus ones is that they expired. Although they were extremely powerful, they expired, and I didn't want to have to keep paying to re-up watchstones. It just never felt worth it to me. But these ones that you can just get mods that last forever and they don't expire ever, that's a really cool thing. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. And obviously at the end game, you're not going to be using any of the vanilla watchstones. You're going to be using all of these because why wouldn't you? And I really would love to know sort of the mod list here, because I have a feeling it's going to be something like Heist where there was the 2 to 4% chance to convert Regals to Exiles. There's going to be some insane mod on these that is going to be really, really expensive. I can already feel that coming. So that's really cool. But the question that I didn't have answered that I would love, if anyone from GGG happens to be watching this video, I would love to understand is, how does this affect the storyline progression in terms of the quests? Like, if I were to just theoretically not run any maps, not progress the story at all, and then just purchase all the watchstones I needed to complete, fully max out my Atlas, how does that work? Am I able to just like bypass the story? Because I'm not opposed to doing that if I can. I mean, I'm not going to not map just to test this theory, but I am curious how that works. So I'll be interested to know that. So obviously 11 new maps. That's fantastic. Always great to have more content. I think they showed a few of them. Dry Sea, Forking River, Frozen Cabins, and Grave Trough. Excuse me. So those seem really cool. New maps are always welcome. I'm not going to stake my expectations of a league and an expansion on maps, but seems cool. So Ritual League. I'm almost debating doing a second video just to talk about Ritual League, but Ritual League seems really awesome. I highly recommend you watch. It's funny, they never give that many details when they give an expansion. When they do an expansion announcement, I think the league is always like almost secondary to the expansion in terms of how much content it gets. But Ritual League seems really cool. Essentially, it's just like additional monsters in the map that you use that you gain currency and you can use to trade for in like I don't remember what they called it, like a ritual store or something, a fetish stash. I can't remember what the hell they called it, but seems really, really cool. And I love it because it's just, again, it's an addition. It's complementary to the expansion in that the expansion is very, very map based, as they always are. And this just adds into the map in the same way that Metamorph added to the Awakener League, or the Awakener expansion. This one is sort of complementary to that expansion. So I think that's really cool. So again, here it says it pits you against arcane powers of Ritual Altar with escalating waves of monsters, and you can capture. They don't mention this, but you can capture those monsters with vessels and reuse them later to basically enhance your maps. It's essentially just like Maps Plus, with the addition of getting currency that you can then use to buy things and accrue over time, etc. So they did mention that the vessels are going to be kind of rare. The vessels are what you use to capture the monsters, but I will be interested to see if those have any innate value and how those function. Like the way they feel is kind of like a scarab. It's almost like a monster pack scarab, the way it feels. I don't know how many monsters we're talking here. I don't know how the points exactly correlate to the monsters. Is it 1-to-1? I doubt it. But because he did mention that, or Chris did mention rather, that bosses will give more points. So I don't really know exactly how this works, but it seems like a really cool thing. But obviously the focus is really the expansion. So this is the ritual rewards that they're talking about. So tribute store, there it is. So you use tribute points to buy things, and you can defer them. And if you get like a headhunter or something, you don't have enough tribute, you can defer it until you have enough points to buy it. So that seems really cool. And then here it says you enhance them with the vessels like we were talking about. So that's really cool. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but yeah, see, there's one with 4 Exalts. There's one with a Forge of the Phoenix. What's the word I'm looking for? Fragment. So this seems cool. I'd really be curious to see. Also, the fact that you can reroll your store is really, really cool to me. I was a little bit worried about that because what if you keep getting duds? And it's nice to have the option to reroll. Obviously, there's a headhunter in there as well. I didn't even notice that because it was grayed out. So that seems cool. I'm excited for this, no doubt. In terms of experiencing new power, they reworked a lot of Ascendancies. This was something I kind of wish I'd done a predictions video, but this is something I was predicting that they were going to do. I had a feeling there's going to be a lot of Ascendancy changes. I was really hoping and praying they were going to redo the lab in general, but I feel like that might be a PoE2 thing. I'll probably go through these Ascendancies later once we have everything out. As I mentioned before, I'm not a build person. I'm not the sort of person who makes my builds. That's not the part of the game that I like to focus on. But we will go through these at some point and sort of talk about it to some degree. So, but just note that they really did make big changes to, I think it was Inquisitor, Elementalist, and they said Inquisitor, Elementalist, and Deadeye. So there you go. And then they also showed some Occultist things that they kind of flashed through here. Hierophant as well, and Slayer they talked about in terms of Leech. Got some changes there. So I think that'll be cool. The uniques, so they didn't actually show these. Oh, they didn't show these cards, did they? Or did they? And I missed it. League-specific item, double influence. Oh, well, that's going to be one we're going to have to be gambling for sure. A league-specific double influence item. That's delicious. That sounds awesome. I really wonder how rare these are going to be. Because a league-specific item is, and that's not that good, because I know that, Arrogance of the Vol is just a unique item that is double corrupted. I think it's an 8 stack, and it's not really worth much, like a couple chaos per card. I hope this is not expensive, but I'll try and start collecting these early so we can do a video for that. Orbs of Alteration, that's, whatever. None of these uniques seemed all that incredible to me, but obviously there's 13, these are only 3, so I'll be curious to see, and maybe they're saving the best for last, but I don't know. Harvest Going Core, the way they implemented it, seems really good to me. I'm really excited about that. I really did not want to have to redo the farm, so thank God we don't have to redo the farm. They also mentioned during the Q&A that sometimes the boss will just spawn when you go in to go get your, do your crafting and do that. Which I think is great. And also the fact that I can't remember what it's called, but the thing that you store the crafts in is going to be in your hideout is even better. I think this is great. Harvest felt like this is the best way I think they could have implemented Harvest. It's sort of like a one-off in and out thing and not something you have to constantly actively manage. So this sounds great. I'm really excited about this harvesting incorporation. This seems like the best way they could have done it. So hats off to them for really figuring this out and sort of taking the community feedback in. So Heist, this is this blurb pretty much addresses some of the complaints that I had mentioned in my previous video, but rogues leveling up faster, that's obviously huge because having to constantly level up your rogues the way at the current rate would have taken a lifetime. Markers at higher stacks, I didn't mention this, but this is just kind of a tedious thing, so that's nice. And then quest contracts now being dropped at the next Smuggler's Cache as soon as that quest is available. That also speeds up the process. So again, I think the issue is that whenever you make like a full expansion side content, you have to kind of address the pacing, and the pacing of this felt a little bit slow as it was, so I'm glad that they made these changes. I'll be curious to know how profitable blueprints and how contracts are. I know that Chris mentioned that they did rework some of the rooms and the reward content there, so I'll be curious to see how that plays out. And that is it. I mean, support Path of Exile, obviously, support Path of Exile, but that is it. So please let me know your thoughts. I am super excited. I can't wait to be playing this. Expect a lot more content from me over the next week leading up into the league, and then obviously when the league comes out, expect a lot of content. I'm really excited. Love to hear you guys' thoughts as always, and I will catch you guys in the next one.